the Mike McDonald defense is predicated on versatility. And it's, of course, predicated on versatility because it was created to beat the McVay and Shanahan offenses of the world, which are predicated on getting players who can do multiple things onto the field and creating conflict for defenders. But if you never sub, so that you're never in the wrong set, right? You're never outmanned, you're never too light, you're never too heavy. If you just say, these are our guys, here we go, and you're going up against a George Kittle and a Christian McCaffrey or even a Deebo Samuel or whomever, then yeah, like you have a really good shot of matching them for their versatility. Oh, Christian McCaffrey's catching the ball out of the backfield? Cool, we're fast. Oh, he's running the ball? Cool, we're strong. Same guy. So you're matching versatility with versatility, so there's no conflict there. The flip side is when you go to 13 personnel, it's such overkill that it is, as you just laid out, as Bill Barnwell apparently laid out, and was very evident on the tape, when you don't sub on the defensive side, but you go to 13 personnel, you are inherently giving up a disadvantage. Now the offense has one more versatile player, being a tight end, than you did. And if the 49ers wide receivers blocked better this season, maybe you could make the argument that the Niners wouldn't have had to go to 13 personnel, but they were garbage in 12 personnel. It didn't matter if it was Kittle in there. It didn't matter. Certainly Tonjes, he's not a good blocker. Good catcher, not a good blocker. And Luke Farrell, I don't know what the hell it is he does, but he was awful. You can try it with Kyle Juszczyk, and that was an interesting little wrinkle. I mean, the other way you can do it is you can just go 4 wide. You can just go to 10 personnel, where you have no tight ends on the field, and you've spread it out. And now you have Nicky Manwari out in space, which is something that if anyone who did the draft evaluation of him and thought he was an actual safety looked at, they would go, that seems like a good advantage for a wide receiver versus Nicky Manwari. Or, probably not against Witherspoon because that dude's unbelievable, but you could play that game as well. The issue was that the Niners did a lot of small window dressing things. And it worked against every other team, more or less, save for Houston, which, again, a bit of a tell there, because Houston doesn't sub either. And all the dash motion, which was an incredible offensive innovation that Kyle came up with this year, with Kyle Juszczyk sort of getting a running start into blocks out of the backfield, that destroyed everybody else. But when you don't sub and you have more versatile players on your defense than the other team has on offense, it doesn't matter if you put the window dressing on it. They're not buying anything off the street. So it just, they ran up against it again and again, and there were opportunities. I even think back to the game that we both agree, the playoff game, the divisional round game, which was over at the opening kick, right? It's 7-0 immediately off the jump. But even you watch that first drive that the Niners have, and there were several opportunities on that drive, including, I would argue, the fourth down option pitch from Juszczyk, where you're like, man, if they just executed this, which is easier said than done because, Drake Thomas on that play particular was incredible at resetting the edge. Mafe was incredible. Like, the Seahawks outplayed him on that, but you can see tactically how that could work. McVay's not playing that game. McVay knows the weaknesses are slot, tight splits, and the deep over-the-top shot on top of getting out on the edge, and I just thought he executed it perfectly. Kyle's going to have to really fundamentally reevaluate how he wants to go against it because he's had a lot of problems against Brian Flores, who runs, at least in theory, well, not theory, in spirit, a very similar defense, a chaotic defense. He has never gotten over the hump against Mike McDonald. Say what you will about week 1 of this season, that was just not the Seahawks defense that we saw at the end of the season. And we go back to 23 when he was the defensive coordinator of the Ravens, and they just got their asses kicked. And those chaos defenses, as I like to call them, where they're coming from all angles, you don't know who's coming, who's going. The protections are always going to be screwed up because of the versatility and athleticism of the defenders. You got the power up front. You got the speed and dynamicism out wide. Kyle's going to have to match man for man. This is basically a guns war now. You cannot scheme your way out of this. Who has the bigger guns, and right now nobody has bigger guns than the Seattle defense.
Well, there's nowhere to go. You can't run wide because they're faster than you, and you can't run up the middle because they're bigger and stronger than you. So, I mean, I think that's really at their core. They're going to have to decide what exactly they're going to do to try to compete because they're clearly don't have the strength with their 3 interior, Burford, Pooney, and Brendel, to move Seattle's interior.
No.
and they don't have the speed to beat Seattle to the edges. So that means you can't run. If you can't run, you can't win. So it's like kind of that's a big part of it. And it's like when they're rebuilding this thing, they got to figure out exactly what do they want to build. They need a ton of speed for sure, but they also need a really hard charging running back to go with McCaffrey and a couple real bulldozer type offensive linemen.
Yep.
And they need to rebuild their defense on all three levels, most notably on that second level at linebacker, where they're just woefully not good enough. Now, some of the stuff that's being talked about is like, Fred Warner. It's only a matter of time. Next year, we're going to win it all. I guarantee it next year. It's like,
cool.
That sounds good, but I mean, sorry, Fred, I'm not with you on that. And it's like, then Kawakami, which, I love Kawakami. I like Kawakami. I think he's interesting. I like reading him. But I mean, he's like, well, the Niners might be the third best team in their division, but they might be the third best team in football. And I'm like, let's not play that game.
It's still third.
It's like, that's just bullshit. I mean, sorry. The Niners don't have a Christian Gonzalez. They don't have a Marcus Jones. The Patriots are pretty good. The Rams are pretty good. The Broncos have a pretty good defense, and they had a ton of sacks this year. You had 20. Nick Bonito is more than you have. Niners don't have a Nick Bonito.
No.
And then you got Buffalo. You got the Lions, who were banged up this year, but they're pretty damn good. You got the Eagles, who are pretty good. I'm just saying, it's like, let's not pretend that there's
a large conversation. If you want to delude yourself into thinking that the Niners are the third best team in football, I actually can't. There's an argument that can be made. It's a stretch. Is a level of incredulity that
an easy schedule.
I can't get with. Well, it ended up being the exact same schedule as the Seahawks, strength of schedule wise. So,
but I mean, it was an overall. They had a very favorable situation. I know the DVOA said that it was tough and this and that, but they still had a somewhat favorable schedule.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing that they didn't have, and they lost to the good teams.
They're a good team among several good teams.
Let's lay it out this way.
I think that's as far as anybody should take it. If you go beyond that, like if you really go into this offseason going, you know what? It's just Seattle and the Rams, and other than that, we're on our way to the Super Bowl.
No,
it's like,
no.
You're on
and a bunch of
way
other
to absolutely nothing because you have no good young players. So that's really
well. I don't know about that. That seems like a bit of a stretch too.
Well,
it's
I mean,
clearly
you have Purdy,
the Seahawks won, the Rams two, and then everybody else fighting for 3 through 10, 3 through 12, and the Niners could very well, with a good offseason, get themselves to 3. And maybe that gap between 3 and 2 gets very tight. But it's going to take a lot of regression from Seattle to come back to the pack. They are far and away better than anybody, and I include the Rams.
We'll project, but we're going to live in the present. And in the present, they look old. They don't have a big deep core. They don't have, the Seahawks have a ton more youth. They've got a lot more, salary cap room. They're, So I'm not saying it's doom and gloom for the Niners, but let's not pretend that like they're really on the verge of something great.
No.
They're not.
No, they can give themselves a damn good puncher's chance with the right offseason. They could also completely screw themselves out of any contention with a bad offseason. So they are on the precipice. It's a cool place to be because, again, you can reinvent yourself enough to where you still have somewhat of a floor. You can do some stuff that's maybe outside of your comfort zone, again, just pick an identity on offense, a new identity on offense, one that's different from the one you've had for almost 10 years now. You can pick a new identity on defense with a new defensive coordinator who's very pragmatic in how he wants to go about his business, and you can do that with free agency and draft picks and such, and there's enough holes on the roster that you can fill those with guys who might not go with the same model, the same type that you've had before, and that can create a new identity for your defense. You can do those things.